It took me more than 40 years to understand something about life that no one ever explains to women. Not because it's complicated, but because if we understood it early, we might have stopped cooperating with a system that was quietly draining our life force. For decades, I did what most women are taught to do. I adapted, I achieved, I pushed myself to succeed inside a structure that rewards constant striving, competition, and external validation. And for a while it worked, until it didn't any longer. What I didn't realize then was that my exhaustion wasn't coming from working hard. It was coming from trying to build a life inside a structure that was never designed to sustain the way I, or any woman, are actually wired to thrive. And once you understand this, you can stop wasting decades trying to force yourself into something that will never feel right. Today, I want to show you what it took me 40 years to see, so you don't spend the next 40 repeating it. And if you already have, you can begin to repair the damage. From the beginning, girls are rewarded for being pleasant, for smiling, being agreeable, and not creating problems. Little boys, on the other hand, are often expected to be mischievous and to get into trouble. After all, they're just being little boys. But little girls, we're taught to be good. And because girls are naturally sensitive to emotional signals around them, approval and disapproval carry enormous weight. There's nothing wrong with this sensitivity. In fact, it's one of our greatest strengths. I would say it's one of our superpowers. But problems begin when well-meaning parents start shaping little girls' behavior without helping her to understand her feelings. Think about how often, growing up, you were told that your feelings weren't appropriate, that you were overreacting, or you were just imagining it. Instead, you should smile. You should stop crying or making a fuss. It doesn't take long to learn that certain emotions are acceptable and others are not. So you did what you needed to do to survive. You learned to hide how you really felt if it didn't fit into the expectations. You learned to swallow your anger, to hide your sadness, to put on a pleasant face no matter what. And when you complied, well, everyone around you relaxed. Your parents smiled and peace was restored. Except something important just happened. You took your first step down the road of self-abandonment. And here's the tragedy. No one called it self-abandonment at the time. They called it being a good girl. Over time, what happens is that girls become very skilled at managing other people's comfort, even when it means denying their own experience, their own feelings. And here's the strange part. They even get rewarded for it. When everyone else is happy, they feel a burst of energy, a sense of success, happiness at last. But what they didn't realize yet at the time, what you didn't realize and had no way of knowing, the same system rewarding you for being good will be quietly extracting your life force for the rest of your life. Sometimes it takes decades before you eventually recognize what's going on, and often it shows up in middle age as exhaustion or burnout, or falling into relationships with people who instinctively know how to exploit that pattern. When discomfort appears, many women try to solve it the only way they've been taught. They try harder, they achieve more, they push themselves further and their feelings down further. But they are doing all of this inside a structure that was not designed with them in mind. The modern world rewards speed, it rewards productivity, competition, constant output. Women are not built for endless forward motion. We are wired for something much different. We are wired to live in cycles. Cycles give us depth of being, time for reflection, and energy for connection. And yet we live inside a system that often dismisses those strengths as weaknesses. So what do? The good girls that we are, we try to adapt. We do what we learned will work. We smile, we work harder, we seek external approval. Now, something strange eventually happens. Even when we succeed, the accomplishments often feel hollow because success that requires constant self-suppression eventually drains the spirit. Now, I spent most of my life feeling exhausted, and I wasn't even working inside a corporate structure or with a lot of other people. I was self-employed. I made a living through my creativity and my art. But even then, I fell into the same trap, the endless feeling that I wasn't doing enough, that I needed to try harder. I felt that maybe the next achievement would finally make everything feel right. But it never quite did, because the real problem wasn't effort. I was good at that. The real problem was misalignment. I thought exhaustion meant I wasn't trying hard enough. It took me decades to realize exhaustion was simply information. Women move in a different rhythm. As we age, we begin to value our depth, our ability to reflect and to be sensitive, and we value our growing wisdom. The older we get, the more we understand that these things are necessary for our well-being. And eventually, many of us reach a realization that can be both shocking and liberating. We weren't failing in the system. Actually, the system was failing us. At 65 years old, after more than 4 decades of trying to succeed inside structures that never quite fit, you know what I did? I stopped cooperating. I think menopause helped with that. As my hormones shifted, something interesting happened. My need for outside approval started to fade. I became less interested in pleasing people and more interested in pleasing me. To do that, I had to start listening to something much quieter and more honest. I had to start listening to my own inner authority. Now, reclaiming that authority is simpler than you might think, but not always easy. What it means is honoring your real feelings. Resting when you're tired, saying no when something drains you, saying yes to the things that bring you back life energy. At first, this can feel uncomfortable because the programming runs deep. But over time, something beautiful begins to happen when you honor yourself. You start to realign with who you actually are. Ambitions don't disappear. They simply change form. You can still accomplish meaningful things. You can still be effective. You can still succeed. But you do it in a way that honors you and your energy instead of constantly overriding it. If I could tell my younger self one thing, it wouldn't be to work harder or smarter, and it wouldn't be to read more productivity books. I would tell her to trust herself, to trust her feelings, to pay attention to where her life force was being drained, and to stop pouring energy into systems and relationships that never intended to nourish me. I would make sure she understood that exhaustion isn't weakness. It's simply information. It's the signal that you are trying to live in a way that was never meant to sustain you. And for any woman listening to this video who feels the weight of decades spent giving energy to things that never give anything back, I want you to know something important. It is never too late to realign. It is never too late to return to your natural rhythm. And it's never too late to finally listen to what your life has been trying to tell you all along. Remember, exhaustion is often the body refusing to cooperate with a life that isn't true.